This is episode 86, and today we're talking about international trade. Most of the things in your house is in your house because of international trade. That is what makes this world work. It works in most instances, and I mean, generally speaking, because most of the things aren't necessarily made in your country. They're typically brought in from other parts of the country. So we're going to talk about how you can get into international trade with very little money. And if you have to spend money, we're going to teach you how to minimize your risk and save a lot of money. So we're talking about that today. What's up, guys? Thank you for tuning in. Today we're talking about international trade. International trade is one of the legal practice areas that I focus on, and it's a really, really big industry. It's a multi-trillion-dollar industry. It's one of the largest industries in the world, and there's opportunity for you to get into it. I mean, you can serve in many roles in international trade. So we're going to talk about, if you don't really have any money, how can you be involved in international trade? Well, one thing you can do, you can serve as an agent or representative for a foreign company. If a company wants to get their products into America, you can serve as an agent, a representative. I mean, you can reach out to individuals. You can travel to different countries. You can go to different factories. China, Guangzhou is definitely one of the places where a lot of products are made in China. Factories all over the world. I mean, they're different products. You go to different places in Africa. They have coconuts and they have products. And most places in the world, there's typically products that are made in that particular country, and they're packaged very well. And you can get those brought to America, see they can be sold in America, and you can get paid a commission or a certain fee with every product you sell. That's one way. And before I go to the next one, it's important to know about the Consignment Agreement. I mean, that's the idea is that they will be in your custody, but the company will have legal title to it. They will still own it legally, and then they'll be consigning it to you, and then once you sell it, they'll get paid and you'll get paid. So that's what the Consignment Agreement. Another way is a partnership. I mean, you get ideas that you can partner with individuals. For example, if you know someone that may have some money and they can pay to get that product shipped to America. I know America has a lot of custom duties and things such as that. A lot of you may have to hire a custom broker. You may have to hire a place to store your products. These things you can do. Now, I will highly recommend individuals use free trade agreements, places that have free trade agreements or preferential treatments. The free trade agreement, preferential trade agreements are all over the world. I mean, I did a whole webinar on the Africa Growth Opportunity Act. I'm going to be doing another webinar fairly soon on the Caribbean Basin Initiative. There's a lot of products that get brought into America from the Caribbeans, and I'm gonna do a webinar on that, talking about different ways to do this. But that's many of it. That's free trade agreements with Israel that the United States has. Other countries have free trade agreements. They have the European Union, that's a free trade agreement. They just passed recently the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. So there are many free trade agreements where you can actually save your money. But continuing back to this current example I had, the idea that you can partner with someone. And business is a team sport. You need to have your team of people. You need to have a lot of things have costs. So someone can put up these fees, and you can partner with them. You may have the connection. You may have the access to the factories or to the resources, or you actually know how to actually do these things. You know how to know digital marketing to sell the product in America. You actually know how to actually do it from an enterprise perspective. You can get in international trade, and that's one thing you can do. I would highly recommend individuals have partners or have team people. Surround yourself with a lot of smart people. In international trade, you need an international trade lawyer. Highly recommend that. That can reduce a lot of stress. There's a lot of contracts in international trade. Sales contracts. They're particularly if it's an ongoing sales contract. I mean, there are different things at the custom borders. Things stop at the customs. You need an international trade lawyer to help get your things out of the custody of customs or fight those fines and seizures. Many things is that. I mean, and it's very important because it's only growing. It's only growing. And we're going to do a webinar on the Caribbean Basin Initiative relatively soon because it was recently renewed. And I want to talk about that, how individuals can take advantage of that. I mean, there's a large Caribbean population in America. So we're going to talk about that. What else? But when you start growing, because if you're doing well, if you're doing things right, ideally you'll be growing. You want to do is follow some of the things to help you minimize your risk. One thing is a letter of credit. A letter of credit basically, instead of relying on the word that this person is going to pay you, Or the idea is that, yes, they rely on where the person is going to pay you. You all can go through banks. You all have banks, and letter of credit works through banks. There are reputable banks in pretty much every country. The vast majority of countries have at least one reputable, well-respected, internationally respected bank. And then you can do letter of credit. Idea is that once the deal is done, the transaction is completed, or you get your goods, then you can send what they call, it'll be the bank will pay the other bank and they'll pay you. That's one of the ways to do it. In essence, that's what a letter of credit is. Also important to know about the different trademarks, the intellectual property. For example, if you are importing things from another country, it would make sense for that particular foreign manufacturer or foreign person that's dealing with those goods to have that trademark registered in the U.S. because you don't want anyone to just start using your brand in another country. For example, you exporting something from the U.S. to another country, or that other country exporting things to the U.S. It's very important that they register in the U.S. to get their trademarks, get the copyrights, everything registered in the U.S. But that will protect them, protect anyone else from just setting up shop and just using your logo and using your brand without you having any recall, without you having any way to potentially get your money back or get reimbursed for your damages that may happen. So that's important. Also, when you're doing international trade, you can reach out to different buyers, and then they can send you products, or you can send products to other different buyers in other countries. And one way you can do that, one way you can protect yourself, is do a non-disclosure agreement. That's the idea is that they can't copy your designs, they can't share what's in your technology, they can't share your recipe, they can't do any of that. Make them sign a non-disclosure agreement where they can't really necessarily talk about that. Particularly if it's like sensitive information or it's like trade secrets involved, that's very important. And then, as I mentioned briefly earlier, some more legal aspects of it is that with international trade is that before you even export your things to another country, you can get a binding ruling, and that's the idea is that before I export it to another country, I am aware of that it will be classified this way, it will have a certain valuation, and then potentially can get duty-free access to this country. Because the customs, particularly at least from the U.S., they'll send you back information saying your product qualifies, is classified as this, and it qualifies under a free trade agreement. That's another way to do it from a legal perspective with international trade. It's all about minimizing your risk. I mean, individuals are often worried, saying, I don't know who this buyer is. Why should I trust this person? Well, they have things like that where you can actually get involved with parties that you don't necessarily trust. That's one of the things with blockchain. As a side note briefly, blockchain is becoming increasingly good. But one of the business models we created is it allows different parties who don't trust each other to do transactions. Same thing with international trade. You can do these letter of credit. They go through actual reputable banks. These are respected, well-respected banks. You can also do different types of agreements. You can also when you're exporting things to another country, most countries have an export credit agency. The U.S. called the U.S. Exim Bank, the U.S. Export-Import Bank, and that's the idea is that you can get type of credit insurance. The idea is that the person, if you export something to another country, and the person doesn't pay you back, you can get up to at least 90% of your money back by doing this. So it takes all the risk out of these things, So international trade is something that individuals should be looking into, and because it's not really that difficult to get into, but it's all about shaping your mind. You can travel the world. I highly recommend everyone at least get a passport and try to travel to another country. Just consider it, And while you're there, start learning about different things, seeing different things, talking to people about what are some things I can actually sell in my home country. But that's pretty much all I have. But to recap what we talked about the consignment agreement, how to get into international trade with very, very little money. You can do serve as a representative, serve as the agent. You can also have a partnership agreement. Talk about the letter of credit, talk about the export credit agency. We talked about sales contracts, many things such as that. So this was definitely a legal-based video. So I hope you all have enjoyed it. This is episode 86. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. One step closer to 1,000 episodes. Thanks.
Say out with an O.